Later, Bill. And just a reminder to the people who've just joined us, please switch your cameras on so we can see who you are and get to know you. And some of you I know already, so that's great. Okay, so off to our sessions. And Aharon, if you unmute yourself, we're going to see how to do this session together, which starts in 2 minutes. Okay, so now I can hear you. You're going to chair the session, and I'm going to help you with the technical stuff. Is that okay?
You mean me or?
Aharon?
Yeah, I'm
Lavi?
here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see you.
Okay. So I'm the chair and the presenter, I guess. That's the...
Yeah. So what I will do is I will say a couple of sentences about you to introduce you to everybody, and then you will chair the session. And I will be in the background making sure that the chats get read and dealt with, and dealing with other stuff. Okay?
Okay. And also don't forget to start the recording. Oh, it's recording already. Okay, great.
We're in the same session now, you see, so we'll just carry on recording.
Okay.
So I have all my instructions here. So we should wait 1 more minute, and then I'll say a couple of words of about you. Let's see, one more request here. If you could put your cameras on, folks, so we can see you, that would be great. And if you could put your name in Latin characters and anything else you want to say about yourself, but it would be good to know your name as well, because this is the only way we're going to get to know each other on this Zoom thing. We can't go for a cup of coffee in the bar or a beer, but we can at least see each other and get to know each other's names. And that's a very important thing about these conferences. So welcome to the first session, 1A. And I want to introduce Aharon Lavi, who is going to chair this session. And I got to know Aharon a little bit at the last conference in Denmark 1.5 years ago. And I'm really happy to be kicking off this conference working together with you, Aharon. You are the co-founder of Makom, which is an umbrella organization of Israeli intentional communities. And you have also published extensively on the subject of intentional community. And so I'm really looking forward to this workshop, and I hand it over to you to chair it, and I will be your backup, and I will be the Zoom tech for this session.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Jan. Good morning, everybody. It's my morning. I think Dan is here, which is impressive. This is like 3 a.m. for Dan. So great to see some familiar faces. Boker Tov, Sarah, Reis, Paz, Jan, of course. We met in previous conferences. So today we have 60 minutes, 59 right now. And this is not a lecture or a presentation. Okay, it's a workshop, it's a discussion. If you want to go on my presentation, that's on Wednesday when I give, like a slideshow and all that. But the purpose of this session is really, as I hope at least some of you read the abstract, and that's why you're here, is actually to put our brains together and think collaboratively on best practices, also theories, but also practices in community building, tools, ideas. How can we make this feel better? The background is that I'm doing my postdoc at Harvard right now under Dan's auspices, actually, under his sponsorship. I was supposed to start in October. That didn't happen because I live on the Gaza border. I spent 2.5 months in the IDF reserve duty, but I hope to be there next week for the next second semester. And the purpose of my postdoc, the heart of it, is to build something that Dan and I call the community manual. It's a temporary name. It might get a different name at the end. But the idea is to be like some sort of a guidance tool, tools of your a theoretical framework for community building that we can use in different sets. In my case, it's going to also be infused with Jewish and other spiritual ideas and inspiration, but it's not exclusive to Jewish community building. It's I think it's knowledge and background that can be useful for everybody. And I'm actually more than happy to have interfaith dialogue about it. That's part of my other hat. I'm managing the largest interfaith dialogue center in Israel, but that's a different context. Now, what I would like to do, there's a whole outline here. I won't go through all of it. I'll just say briefly, and then we'll dive right in. We're going to start with 5 minutes of introduction, maybe more than 5, because thank God we have a full room. I'm going to give an overview of the manual, give a few like house rules for the discussion, and then we'll dive into trying to create content together. And I will say later also about copyright and all that. This is it's an experiment in creating something in such a collaborative manner, and I hope it can work so we can all learn from it. And then we have 5 minutes for Q&A at the end. Now, since this is a workshop and a discussion and not just me speaking, I would like, with your permission, Jan, to do something which is a bit unusual in academic conferences, but really take 30 to 60 seconds for everyone in the room to really say just who you are, where you're from in the world. I already saw in the chat we have people from China, we have people, which is quite fascinating, we have people from all over the world. So say where you are, who you are, and where you're from. And in 1 or 2 sentences, why you came to this session and what you think you have to contribute or to gain from learning together or brainstorming together on community building. And with that, because we're going to have a discussion, I think it will be useful for us to know who is in the room and have some slight community building in this online forum for 1 hour. So I'm going to pick someone randomly, and then the method is that you speak for a minute and then you pass it on to the next person. Let's please try and limit it to 30 seconds, a minute, because we have 14 people, so to keep it in time. So I would start with Paz. If you'd like to unmute yourself and just tell us where you're from.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here. My name is Paz Elnir. I'm the Yad Benkin director, and I'm looking forward to this conference. Thank you.
Okay. Now you choose the next person who would like to speak next.
Okay. Michal, please.
Michal Palgi. I'm from the Institute for Research of the Kibbutz and the Cooperative Idea at the University of Haifa. I was many years ago the president of ICSA, and I'm dealing usually with participation in organization, gender, and equality, of course, and community building, which is we are dealing with now very much after what happened in Israel. I can't choose anybody because I can't see the people. So I'm from my iPhone of my Galaxy, and I don't see the people, so you choose.
Okay, I'll choose. So Mark Barber, you're on.
Yeah, hi there. Can you hear me?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my name's Mark Barber. I've been many years in various Camp Hill communities. The Camp Hill communities are intentional communities together with the Learning Disabled people. I know Jan Bang has also been involved for many years in such communities. Our particular situation here in North Yorkshire in the UK is we had a large and quite old intentional community that took quite a big hit for various reasons about 10 years ago. And we're trying to recreate it. And we're doing that by trying to redefine community as far more outward looking than it was historically. So that's my particular interest in this conference, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. You choose the next person. Mark, you need to choose the next person to introduce themselves.
Oh, yeah, apologies. So look, Arismendi.
Yeah. So my name is Ariel. Of course, it's not my real name. Anyways, and I'm from Shanghai, and currently I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree in Shanghai. And this year I've been organizing communities for sexual minorities in Shanghai, but we are facing many difficulties, mostly from government, and that's why I want to be here and learn from you guys. And next, maybe Ilan.
Ilan, yeah. Are you with us?
Ilan, can you hear me?
Or yeah.
Say Sarah.
So I'm Sarah Shagmi-Wortman from the Varda Institute, which is the International Center for Community Building in Israel. And I'm here in this conference. I joined the ICSA a year ago in Denmark in the conference. And I'm here because I'm doing the project with Aharon, Ariel. So I was hoping to hear more ideas about it. The Varda Institute is partnership with Aharon Ariel in creating this handbook for community building.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for being here. Can you choose the next person?
Yeah, I'll choose Rain Cohen from Berkeley.
Greetings from California, where it's rather late at night. I've been at several ICSA gatherings and a member at times, but I'm especially interested in co-housing, eco-villages, and aging in community. And my wife Betsy will be presenting on networks in the next session. And
Great.
that's where I'm at. I'm not sure who else is left.
Martha, Raven, you can choose.
Martha?
Yes, thank you. I will join with the camera in a bit also. So my name is Marta. I'm originally from Italy, but I live in Norway. And yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. I got to know about this conference from Jan Bang, that has been my permaculture teacher last year. So my interest also geography, environmental studies, nonviolence. So looking forward to just get the new ideas and old ideas. Yeah. I would send it on Shusan Liu. Have you spoken?
Yeah. Susanna, is that how you
Hello.
pronounce your name? Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, it's me now.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Well, because it's a little bit more early in the morning. I'm still in my bed, so I was not very convenient for me to open the camera, but I will do it when I get up. And now I'm studying in Germany, and my focus is also about community building and intentional communities. And I know this conference in the Chinese group, which is focused on co-living. It's like a more interesting base, and I'm really looking forward to know more about you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. We have let's Muhammad and then Raven, and then we'll move on. Muhammad, maybe you can start. Oh, and Ilan. Okay, sorry, we'll take you as well. But then Muhammad, you go first.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
With
Okay,
this
Ilan.
microphone? Oh, okay, great. I just do a short introduction for myself. I originally from China, but I based in Berlin. But we are having a planning to having a eco's more artist village, or how to say, co-living and co-working space in Portugal. So that's the main project I'm working on. In the meanwhile, we're having a study group based in Berlin, a Chinese group, studying on eco-village, this topic. So that's why I'm interested in this. Yeah, that's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, welcome, Ilan.
Let's
Muhammad?
move on.
Hi everyone. Just call me Ali. So I'm
Ali.
from Finland. I'm from Finland, and it's quite cold here currently, just like
We can
Norway.
see that.
Yeah. So I am most interested in building a spiritual community. You can call it interfaith or just a community of consciousness development. But so my main challenge is exactly how to build a community so that it becomes sustainable in every way. So
Okay,
thanks for organizing this.
so we've come to the right place. I suggest we move. I see. If we missed anyone,
Raven, have we heard from Raven?
Raven.
Raven, yeah. Hello everyone. I'm in my car now and I'm from China and I based in mainland China in Dali. It's southeast of China, and Dali is a little town that is rising different types of communities. And I personally, I'm not a participant. I do documentary, so I'm following different types of community buildings. I'm here to actually learn from you guys how you are doing it around the world. But I will be driving during the section, so I might not be opening this camera. Okay.
That's
Let's
perfectly
move on.
fine. Okay, so let's start. I think we covered it. Oh, Doug, do you want to say words about yourself, and then we can start?
Yes, I'm from Norway. I'm here to learn. I was interested in the community in 40 years, but so this is first time I see people who are in community and how it works. So I'm here to learn.
Okay, great. So let me start with a few words to say a few more words about the community manual and the purpose of it. And first of all, thank you all for coming. This is really exciting, the amount of experience and knowledge we have here. So I wanna open with first of all, start with the why. Why meaning WHY. So like, why even do such a project? Every project must have a why. Like, what's the purpose? Why even do that? And I think that in a nutshell, one of the after COVID, the most severe epidemic we have in our world right now, and it's intensifying actually, is the epidemic of loneliness. We'll see some data later. If you want to learn more about it, that's in my session on Wednesday. I'm going to dig deeper into the data. But basically, we have a very, very serious problem of loneliness. And loneliness is not just about, it's not so nice to be alone sometimes. No, it's actually an existential threat for the individual and also for society. It causes a whole slew of medical problems, emotional problems, psychological problems, and it also drives and intensifies social polarization and social unrest. Exactly why and how, I'm going to say more about it on Wednesday. But just giving you the background. So that's the problem. Now, what does community have to do with that? So people can come up with all kinds of solutions to this predicament. Some of them are chemical, cipralax. That's how they call it in Israel. But all kinds of psychiatric materials that people take to feel less depressed and less alone. All kinds of artificial solutions. I'm not judging any of them. I'm not in the position to judge anything. I do want to say on a positive note that I think that the most well-tried, checked, verified, and confirmed tool to cope with loneliness and to make human lives more full and colorful and fulfilling is living in a community. More than money, more than food, more than anything else. I'm not saying that you don't need to have any money or eat anything or that, but overall, by and large, living in a community is one of the most beneficial things you can do to yourself and to the people around you. Now, the conversation could end here. I mean, okay, it's community. It's easy. Let's just put people in a room and they become a community. Why should we have all these sessions and conferences and books? Like, what's the point? Let's just get in a room and become a community. Now, the problem is, that's where I'm getting to the community manual, is that to build a community is not so easy as it seems. On average, from what I know, but I'm happy, if you can challenge this, if you have other data. From my 15, almost 20 years of experience in the field, both in Israel and around the world, I do have to say that most of my experience is in the Jewish people, but I do have some experience outside of the Jewish people. But at the end of the day, people are people. It's not like, Jews have other human traits. We're all pretty much the same. So from what I know, out of any 10 attempts to build a community, 2 will succeed and the other 8 will fail at different stages. Some of them may fail right at the start, some of them may fail further down the line. And the question is why? And I think that part of the answer, and that's the project, me and Sarah and a few other partners are trying to do, is because while there is a lot of know-how and there's a lot of experience on how to build communities, how to manage them, there are certain types of crises that repeat themselves in almost every community, certain types of challenges that repeat themselves. There are patterns that just happen again and again. Even though we know all that, many of the community builders don't know that, they don't have access to this knowledge. At least, I mean, you can Google, community building, but there's so much out there that we feel, at least in the field that we're in, that there is a need for something more robust and more organized. Now, the challenge is, I'm going to share from my personal experience. So I'm also a medic by training. I'm a medic for almost 20 years. And in my medic course, when we learned about it, they gave us an example for how long does it take to become an expert in a certain field of medicine. So, for example, people who are liver surgeons, there are only 4 of those in Israel. They studied 7 years medicine, 7 years surgery, then another 4 years liver surgery. So that's 18 years to become a liver surgeon. And when you go to a liver expert, then you know that this person knows a lot more than you know about liver, even if you can Google it or read a few articles or watch a YouTube on liver. It's obvious that he or she knows much more than you do on liver. Okay, and the same goes for whatever, heart, cardiologists, and any kinds of professional doctors. The problem is that many people tend to think that it doesn't work like this in communities. Now, I'm not saying that you need to study for 18 years to become a community builder. Luckily, it's much easier than that. But I do say that you need to start to study at least to some extent. Otherwise, you will make mistakes. Some of those mistakes don't cost human lives, but they could cost emotional pain. And they could, when I don't know how many of you have lived in communities or lived in communities that fell apart. When a community falls apart, in many cases, it's like a divorce. It's very painful. Mark, you mentioned that you had a community in your area. I don't know the story exactly, but I've seen some communities that have dissolved, and that's a very unpleasant experience. Now, I'm not saying we can mitigate it entirely. I can say that from our experience at Hakel, and we have over 100 international communities in 30 different countries all over the world in 6 continents. We've seen that with proper guidance, proper mentoring, networking, training, we can raise the chances of success from 2 out of 10 to around 7 out of 10, which is, again, that's not 100%, but it's better than 2 out of 10. So the purpose of the community manual is really to gather information and knowledge, make it accessible, not just as a book, also as podcasts, as short YouTube videos, as tools you can use. You can download something, like an outline for our session, something like the community canvas, which we'll see in a minute, and try to collect those tools. Now, the idea that I'm testing in this session is if and how we can do this in a more collaborative manner. I mean, I can sit in my room together with Sarah, and we'll write what we know, and then we'll publish it to the world, and people may like it or they may not. Hopefully they will. But if we're talking about building communities, maybe we can also build this project as a community to some extent. So this session is supposed to be a one step in this direction. And I want to say, just lay out 3 ground rules and then start picking your brains. Okay, enough of me talking. One, I'm just looking at my other screen, okay, for my outline. Don't worry, I'm not on other things. One is no idea is a bad idea, and this is a safe place. So feel free to say whatever you want, share any idea you have. You never know which idea is better or worse or efficient or not. It's just better. The best way to go is just to put all of them out there and see what sticks. So that's rule number one. I'll put them in the chat in a minute. Number two, all contributors will be credited in future publications unless they're asked not to. So if you share an idea, you share something you wrote, you share anything that's relevant for the manual, you will be credited on the website, on whatever is published. So we're not, God forbid, plagiarizing or stealing information from anyone. The idea is to help all of us share our knowledge with the world to the extent possible. The third rule is that you can be a contributor, responder, listener, or all of the above. You don't have to speak now. If you want, you're welcome to. Paz, are you trying to say something because you're on mute? Okay,
Paz,
so
you're
I'm gonna
unmute. Ask to unmute.
Okay. So okay, so with this in mind, let's dive right in. And I want to start. We're gonna talk about 3 questions. We'll take them one at a time. I want to talk about the possible to try and identify the main challenges for in community building. The second question would be, what are the main processes every community must go through? And the third question would be, how do you, all of us, define a successful, sustainable, mature community? Once we have at least preliminary answers to those questions, we can ask the next round of questions, which is what tools, best practices, theoretical materials are the most efficient in tackling those questions, in responding to community challenges, in promoting communal processes, and in advancing communities to a sustainable, mature state. Yeah, Jan,
I just want to say something technical. That is that if you want to raise a question or contribute to the talking, you can either raise your hand like I did, and you'll find at the bottom of your page there's something called reactions, and you can raise hands. The other thing is you can write in the chat. I'm continuously monitoring the chat. If you want to say something, write it in the chat, and I will make sure that you get on. Okay? Welcome, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. So let's start with the first question. It's a brainstorming. It's the method here is called popcorn. You just pop up and say whatever you have in your mind. Just say whatever comes to mind. And what are the key challenges in community building from your experience or from what you heard or what you think? Again, there's no bad answer. We're brainstorming ideas. Usually in Zoom there's embarrassing silence in the beginning, but once people start talking, it will flow. And again, I can talk on and say what I think, but I think the purpose is to pick everybody's brains and hear more ideas. Again, the question is, it's also on the chat. What are the key challenges in community building? Okay.
Please repeat the question. Yeah, good. Thanks. Good.
I think
Yeah,
the first
Ali.
one.
Ali and then Sarah. Okay. Yeah, Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Well, maybe the biggest problem for me has been the commitment of the people to the joint project. I mean, it's easy for people to like join in on the building a community, but then how to keep going and developing the community in such a way that it becomes thriving and yeah, sustainable in the long run. So it's
Okay.
about, for me, it's the commitment question.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important. I think the underlying challenge is that we want a sustainable, like we want a community with the same people. We don't want to change the people every week. So we want to keep it so like continuous. Yeah, Sarah and then Mark and then Marta.
Yeah, great.
I think the biggest challenge in community building is the tense between the universal patterns of it and the uniqueness of each community. Because in the implementation, because the community building theory, at least the one that I'm coming from, has universal principles of how to work, because people are people all over the world and community is community all over the world. But the cultural notions of the communities, the different ones, the background, the infrastructures, as we saw it, demands very unique implementation patterns that relate to every community. So I think that the biggest challenge that we will have in this handbook is the tension between how to make it, taking the same principles, universal ones, and to give them guidelines that can help communities to implement it in the unique way that is relevant to them. I can just say that based on the work in the world, we saw that the same principles to get to the same result, because the measurements of success are the same, in my opinion, all over the world. You need to do the opposite in one community than in the other, to get to the same results. And that's for itself is a huge challenge for the handbook. And I just want to apologize that I have to leave this session because I have to prepare myself because we are part of the panel on the next session. So I'm sorry, and I will hear everything from Aharon, Ariel. So thank you.
Yeah, you and I will have more discussions. I just want to say in that regard, as part of my interfaith work, I'm part of a group of Israelis and Indonesians that work together. We had a session yesterday on Indonesian culture, and for example, in Bahasa Indonesia, which is the local language, we have 50 words for yes, but half of those words actually mean no. Because in their culture, it's very non-confrontational. Like you don't say no to someone in the face. You have other ways to say no, which is more subtle or polite. Each way is okay, but if you don't know that, and I mean, you need to know that if you want to build a community in Indonesia, for example. That's just one example. Yeah, Mark, you're on.
Yeah, so the question is the main challenges for building a community.
Yeah.
I think community building, living in community is like so many, a kind of lost art. I think once upon a time, there was just an intuitive knowledge of how to live in community. And I think that's something that as modern people, we've lost. And I think often what goes wrong from what I've observed of community is that we come in with our egos, with our agendas, with our cliques, and that kind of dynamic is what tears community apart. So I think a lot of the challenge is to create I don't even know what you call it, but to create a space or dimension that's somehow bigger than your opinion, my group, your group, my ambitions, your ambitions. But it's a kind of shared space that's bigger than all of that. Yeah, and that's something, I don't know, in community, I find that's a lot of what I feel we need to be doing, is to be cultivating that space that's somehow higher than all of these things. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Let's take Marta and then move to the next question.
Thank you. Well, what it came to my mind was informal hierarchies. If the power that exists, it's not well, formally, it does not have a good organization and structure, I think the risk would be that still some hierarchy informally come up. This is at least something that me and my partner, we saw when we were visiting an eco village that was already established with only 5 families. And it was very clear for us that a couple of the people there really had a lot of, power, but it was informal. So just having maybe also in the handbook some tips of how to just decide how power is power is shared.
Yeah,
Thank you.
how to deal with power allocation. I think that's the because there will always be, maybe just to take off the table some what in my perception is unrealistic hopes of communities. In the professional community building world, we say that the main challenge of building communities is people. Okay, people are very hard to work with, and it's very difficult to work with them. But that's the only thing you can use to build a community. You can't build a community from trees or cars. You need people to build a community. And people have, as you said, they have ego, they have different cultures, they have hierarchies, they want power. And the question is not how do we eliminate those, because that's human nature. I don't think we can, I mean, you can try, but that's a whole different project. If we take human nature into account, so how do we work with human nature and create a community that allocates power properly and deals with people's ego and everything you just said? So, Jan, you want to jump in and then we move to the next question?
You're talking to me? Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
you raised your hand.
I did. Yes, I wanted to just add two things here. One is something called the layers of the onion, and that is that some communities are like black and white. Either you are a member or you're not. But many successful communities have a gradient where you can be more or less attached to it. And that helps people as they pass through their lives. Older people like to have more privacy. Younger people maybe more community. And to be respectful of how much commitment you have could be a great help in making the community more manifold. But I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is caring. And if you can establish a culture of caring for the other people, then that is kind of one of the keys. But I'd like to add one last little thing, and that is that the statistic that you gave at the beginning, maybe 1 or 2 in 10 fail within the first couple of years. The interesting thing is that it's about
2 of 10 succeed.
2 out of 10 succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's about the same in business. And
right. Like startups.
And so it's a human thing, so don't worry if the community doesn't succeed. Most businesses don't succeed either. And so we don't have to think this is something terrible about community. It's human.
Yeah, I take this with both hands. Failure is not the end of the game. It's just the beginning of the next round. It's not the only way to succeed is to fail a few times. I failed several times in building communities and building all kinds of organizations, which leads me to the next question. And again, we're doing this round of challenges, and then the next round will be asking like, what are the tools that can respond to those challenges? So my next question would be, how would you define a successful or sustainable or mature community? Let me put it in the chat. Okay, because again, if we want to build a manual that's going to help people create successful, sustainable, mature communities, then we need to have some sense of what it is, like some definition of what is such a community. And obviously, taking into account what Sarah just said, that's not an easy task, because a successful community in Israel can be one thing, even in different parts of Israel, and a community in the UK or in Finland or in China can be something different. But still, let's try and put our heads together and think about several traits or characteristics of communities that, if they exist, we can say, okay, that community is successful. Just think about communities that you've seen in your lives that you think are functioning well, and think about 1 or 2 things that make you think that they function well. Yeah, Ali, go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking about resilience, especially in relation to the community dynamics, internal dynamics. So, so no matter what kinds of challenges the community is facing, it will always go through them because of the social structure is so strong that it doesn't fall apart in the face of any difficulties. So it's just a kind of social strength or something, resilience that gets it through
Resiliency, okay.
anything.
Resiliency in face of external and also internal challenges. How would you define that?
Well, actually, it's both, yeah, external and internal challenges.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. What else can define? Yeah, Michal? Yeah, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself, Michal.
Okay. Now you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I think one of the important things is the trust in leadership, because usually there are some leaders and some others, even if it's a very participative one. So trust in the leadership is very important for community resilience, for community stableness. Another what is connected to it is communication, good communication between people and the leadership and the organization. Whatever is going on, the communication is very important, and the way it is communicated. And the other thing is that I want to mention is the conflict resolution methods that are applied in the community and which are agreed upon, because often in communities there are conflicts and we have to be aware of it and to think how to resolve them in different ways. By the way, I am with Shlomo Getz from our institute. We are now editing a book, which should be out this year, about intentional community conflicts and conflict resolution in intentional communities. So we are dealing with this issue very much now.
Beautiful. I would like to see that. That's very important. As I said earlier, communities have this aura of being something very positive and happy and nice, which they are. But they also have conflicts and challenges, and if you know how to deal with those challenges, then communities stay nice and safe. If not, they become less nice. Okay. What other would define a community? Any ideas in terms of like how many people should be in a community? Should they all live together? Should they share their money? Should they like some of the basic stuff? What ideas do you have?
Sarah would say that the community need a mission.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in Israel we call those communities, in Hebrew it's called kehilot mesimatiyot. Now literally it would translate as missionary communities, but missionary has a different context, a different meaning, the Judeo-Christian world. So we call this mission-driven communities, or meaning communities that also do something for the larger society. So they don't just take care of themselves, but they also do a project. It can be welfare, it can be the environment, it can be opening a new school, whatever it is to benefit, to take the power of the community and actually harness it for the greater good. Yeah, so that's very important.
Some shared values.
Shared values, right? Shared values. I would add something. It's a test that we do with our communities that relates to some of the things you said about resiliency and trust and leadership. So when we start working with a new community at Hakel, so usually I don't know, 10 cases out of 10 there will be a founder. The communities don't just pop up. There's someone there. There's someone with motivation and organizational skills and some gravitas and some charisma that actually can build the community. That's how it's created. So we would sit with the founders It can be 2 people, 4 people, 7 people. Usually it's a small group in the beginning. And we build a work plan. And then we ask them, okay, that's day 1 of the community or the first year. And we tell them, if I would now take you as a thought experiment, not really. If I would now take you and relocate you, let's say it's a community in Amsterdam, and I tell them I'm going to relocate you to Australia. It's a different time zone. It's a $1,500, $2,000 flight. You may have some Zoom calls, but you'll be detached from the community. Would the community continue to survive or not? Will it linger on or not? Usually the answer in the beginning is no, and that's okay. That's legitimate because they're the founders and they just started. If you pull them out, it's like you pull the plug on the community. There's no one to really sustain it. And then we ask this question every year. If the answer is still no in year 1, year 2, year 3, it's okay. Year 3, I would say, is the limit. If the answer is still no at year 4, 5, 6 onwards, then we have a problem. If the community is still dependent on the founders after 4, 5, 6 years, that if you remove them, it will fall apart, then something there is missing. Something in the structure, in the institutions of the community is not working well, because it did not develop this resiliency that Ali mentioned, and or this good communication and trust in leadership that enables it to flourish. Now, the most successful communities I've seen are actually communities, some of them can be like 30 or 40 years old, and the people who are not in the community, none of them, or almost none of them, was there when it was founded. So like, I don't know, there's this experiment in Greek philosophy, the Xenon ship, it's called. I think that's the name. That they ask this question: if you take a ship and you replace the oars, and then you replace the sails, and then replace some of the wood, step by step, you replace all the parts until you replaced all of them. So is it still the same ship, or is it a whole different ship? It's it's like this question of like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it still make a sound? So aside from the philosophical aspect of it, I would say that a successful community is a community that you've been able to replace all the people, and it's still there because the structure is stronger than the individual people. Okay, Jan, we have 15 minutes left, right?
Yep.
Okay. So with your permission, I want to jump to the part of solutions. Obviously, what we're doing now is just touching the iceberg. There's a lot. I mean, we can unpack. Let's say, Michal, you talk about good communication. We can do a 10 hours session on what does it mean, communication? What is good communication? How do you develop good communication? Each one of those things needs to be unpacked. But for the sake of time, I want to jump to sharing best practices, and I divide this into 3 parts. One is content areas. Like, what are the best tools for building community? And I'll show an example in a minute. The second thing would be, what are the best frameworks for building community? And the third one would be, are there any texts or books or movies that you can suggest that can benefit the process or inspire community building, like the poem that Jan shared in the beginning, which I would love to get once we finish this session, because, arts, poems, books, movies are very, very powerful tool in educational processes, and they can be used very efficiently in community building. So we'll take 5 minutes for each one, and then we'll have to wrap up. So the first question is, what are the best tools you know or heard of in those areas? And I want to show an example just to warm us up. Okay, so for example, I'm sure many of you heard of the following tool, which also has been built collaboratively. It's not like one man is one person invented it. Have you heard of the community canvas of this tool? I can't see everybody's faces, so it's okay. So just as an example, even if everything you take from this session is that now you know that there is such a thing called the community canvas, then I've done my share. Okay, I've done my part. I can go. I can justify the time in my conference, in this conference. So the community canvas is a very straightforward but very efficient tool for community builders. It has 3 basic parts, the blue, the red, and the green. There are all kinds of layouts, all kinds of graphic designs. It's available in many different languages. You just type communitycanvas.org and you go to the website, and they have all, and it's open source. So you can build your own version and just upload it, and it's shared with the whole community. And it just takes you through the process of community building, at least through a process. I mean, there are many ways to build a community. This is one way to start with the purpose. Why does the community exist? Who is the audience? What are the values and the goals? Then you go to roles, rules, the experience we have, governance. We talked about hierarchies here and power allocation. So that's where this goes in. And communication, Michal, okay? How do we communicate in the community? So I'm not going to go into all this. Again, the community canvas, that's a whole session in and of itself. I put it here just as a teaser, to give us some food for thought. So what other tools do you know besides, I see Jan, you already wrote the community canvas. But what tools do people here know or have used in the past? Or maybe the tools that you would like to have, that you still don't have, but you would like to have? Yeah, Marta, go ahead.
Thank you. So I thought about this before you showed the community canvas, but I see that also has a good interaction with what you presented there. So the first one I wanted to mention about communication, I think nonviolent communication, that is the type of communication based on feelings and needs, and talking from one person to come to empathy with the other. It's, I think, really crucial. So I would really recommend to read like Nonviolent Communication by Marsha Rosenberg. And then the other book, which is something that I'm exploring just recently, also through the work that I'm doing with the Permaculture Association. It's a book that it's called Many Voices, One Song, which is a book on sociocracy, which, by the way, also has very good explanation in about how to write your values, your mission, your vision, and how to share power. So Many Voices, One Song, which is from, I can write the authors in the chat.
Please do. Thank you so much. That's great. I'm going to remove the spotlight because I want to be able to see everybody, okay? Again, since this is more of a workshop. Again, ideas you have for tools, best practices, things you've used in the past. So we talked about community canvas, nonviolent communication, sociocracy. Any other ideas that come to mind?
Yes, can I add something here? This is a very good tool that we have in permaculture, which is to use the problem to create a solution. And it's based on the fact that no community can avoid conflict. When you have two people together, there will always eventually sometime be a conflict. The conflict isn't such a bad thing, because if you use the conflict to resolve the conflict well, you will build community. So conflicts should actually be welcomed, and the challenge should be not to win, but to make peace.
Yeah, I love that. If you try to avoid conflict all the time, you're actually living a very superficial life, and you're avoiding what it means to be human.
Yeah, there's one more thing, that is that communities have a life cycle, and they have a young period when it's a pioneering period, and they have a mature period when things become more professional, and then they have old age. And as they transition from one type of community to the next, those transitions are often very traumatic. A bit like human beings when they go through puberty, there's challenges. And so we have to accept they will be challenges, and we have to use them to grow healthily.
One of the things I found very useful, and just one sentence and then we go to you, Paz, which I experienced also myself, is what's called the murder of the founder. So the founders of communities need to know when to step back and actually let other people assume leadership. Usually around the third or fourth year, they should do that. if they don't do it on their own accord, they will be overthrown. And that's much more painful. And that's a life cycle that all communities go through. And if you know that it's coming and someone will tell you that, then you might save yourself. If I would have known that 16 years ago, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache. Yeah, Paz, go ahead.
Thank you. Democratic practices is very, very
Okay.
important for a community. It seems to be obviously, but it connect the power in the community. So I think that it's very important. And also volunteering in the community, because it shows caring and partnership, and from my opinion, it's very, very important also. Thank you.
Thanks. That's democratic practices and volunteer management, I would say, or volunteer motivation. Great, Ali.
Yeah, I was reminiscing this. I came across one very interesting method from Scott Peck. I put a link there in the chat. I was in a
I don't see the link.
It's it should be in chat.
Yes, it's in chat.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a workshop in which it took maybe 3 or 4 hours, and the idea was to enter in a circle. We had a circle, so the group entered a joint like a shared space of consciousness in which everything just happened intuitively in a kind of meditative states. And so that's for me is the most interesting tool for actually building a shared space from, you can call it from a heart connection. So that's something I would like to try myself in some context with some group.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Michal.
I think
Go
that
ahead.
one of the important things is usually a community has some goals. It wants to bring people together around something. And I think this should be changed every time so the community can regenerate itself, but not stay stuck in the past. As you said about the leaders, it's not only about the leaders, it's also about what it wants, what it needs, what it feels like doing. I think this is very important to change, to make changes and to regenerate itself.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, the goals of the community are not like the American Constitution, that you set it once and it stays the same for 250 years.
For generations.
It has to be. It has to be
Yes.
It's
to
a
change
dynamic
with
thing.
times. Yes.
Okay, so we only have 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna skip the theoretical frameworks. I'm going to discuss this on my session on Wednesday if you want, the framework of loneliness and what happened and the role communities can play in sustaining democracies, which is a big challenge for, I think, all modern democracies, how to sustain our democracy, because the polarization just tears it apart. And communities have this ability to actually function as a moderating agent. But I'm going to discuss this on Wednesday. And we have only 4 minutes left. And I want to jump to the last question I have, which is, can you suggest key texts and ideas? So I'm going to copy it into the chat. So one text we saw in the morning from Jan, which I really, really liked, and I would love to get it. And I want to share a text on my own, and then any ideas you may have would also be very highly appreciated. So I'm sharing. I have all kinds of associates that I use when I teach community building and I work with community leaders. Usually it's Hebrew and English because these are Jewish sources. This one comes from a very famous book in our field, A Kibbutz Met, The Kibbutz is Dead, Long Live the Kibbutz. It was published in 1996, and I can send you the text later. You can see he anticipated things that happened like 30 years later, which is crazy. But I want to share this very, very short text from a book that I'm sure many of you heard of, The Little Prince by, I don't really speak French. I think it's pronounced as Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And the Little Prince goes there. Yeah, that's how they said it. Okay. And he tells them, again, going to the ship allegory, okay? Tells them, if you want to build a ship, you don't round up people to collect wood and don't assign them tasks and work, but what I teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea, okay? So what he's saying is that if you, maybe I'll copy it to the chat so I can stop sharing my screen, okay? So I said if you just replace the word ship with community, it can serve as a very strong insight. Because if you want to build a community, so you don't gather up people and say, okay, so this is how we're going to solve problems, this is how we're going to make decisions, this is how we're going to raise money and teach them all the tools, and then they become a community. You need that, but that's a second step. The first step is to get them excited, to get them motivated, and this goes back, Ali, to your question of commitment. People will be committed if they see the value in the community, if they're excited about the immensity of being together, about, as Jan said in the beginning, of their need for other people. If they're excited about that, then they will build a community, and then you need to teach them all the tools. But the first is to get them excited about the ocean, about what's in it. So in the last 2 minutes, I'm opening the floor, for any ideas, texts, poems you may want to share, or just closing remarks, something that you take with you from this session.
I can say.
Sure.
Okay, I wanted to say thank you very much. It was very interesting, and I wanted to say that what you said about communities that are not related to the place is very interesting, because now there are many communities in Israel that have been displaced and are facing the test of survival. And we
my
are
community as well.
Your community as well. And we will talk about it in the next session.
Okay.
For me, it was very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you all. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Jan, for moderating the session and helping us. I will send a link to the document I typed, and I'm happy to stay in touch. I'm here in the entire conference, and thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Great to meet
Thank
you,
you.
old friends and new friends.